Guys, it's Fonzie with DipYourCar.com, world famous peelable auto paints. Now the project that we're working on today is a little bit more complex or a little bit more thorough than some of the other ones we've done. However, it's still something that the majority of DIY dippers out there can do themselves. And of course, we're talking about adding stripes or racing stripes to an already plasti dipped car. Now the vehicle we have behind us is not already plasti dipped, it's getting ready to go right now. It's already masked, it's already prepped. Now, if you're not familiar with the masking, prepping, or spraying techniques on how to dip your car, there's a video in the description box below. It's a full step-by-step guide on how to dip your car, and it includes everything from masking, preparation, spraying, and breakdown. So make sure you watch that if you're not up to speed. So what we're gonna do today is step one, which is 6 coats of white Plasti Dip spray as our base. Then we're gonna come in with 2 coats of white pearl in dip pearl top coat on top. So we're gonna get the entire car done in a white pearl satin finish. Then we're gonna let it sit, come back tomorrow about 24 hours later, and we're gonna jump into adding our stripes. It's gonna be a fun video. Hope you enjoy it. Guys, welcome to day 2 of the project. We've got our Mustang here and it's got a beautiful white pearl satin finish on it, and it's dried for a full 24 hours. Now that's a critical piece. You definitely want to let your dip dry for at least 24 hours, if not a little bit more, to make sure that when the tape goes on top of it, when we're masking our racing stripes, that when you remove the tape, you don't damage the dip. So it's time to get into the fun stuff. We're gonna start measuring out where we want our stripes. It can get a little bit complex, but as long as you have a plan and stick to that plan, you'll definitely get through it. Let's get started. Okay, now it's time to start laying out our stripes. Now we're gonna go with that classic Shelby look where we have just 2 thick stripes going up the car all the way around with about a 2-inch gap in the middle. Now you can make your stripes as big, as small as you want. You can get as creative or as classic as you want. That's just what we're going with on this project. So we're gonna have an 8-inch stripe with a 2-inch gap and then another 8-inch stripe. And the stripes are gonna start from the bottom of the front bumper, come up across the hood, over the roof, down over the trunk, and down again over the back bumpers. So what we're gonna do again is have a 2-inch gap in between. So for me, the easiest thing I can think of is find the center line of the Mustang and take our 2-inch tape and run that 2-inch tape down the center line of the Mustang. That's gonna split the Mustang in half and allow us to then measure out 8 inches on both sides, mask those lines off, and build our stripes from there. You just gotta be really careful and consistent and make sure that as you go across each panel, the line stays true all the way down. Now it's not easy, but it's something that as long as you pay attention to, you'll get it right. So we're gonna start with the hood and work our way around. Okay, we've measured out all of our spot points. We've gone back and double checked all of the measurements. And now what we want to do is essentially have one continuous line of tape that runs down the center of the car. Now it's easy to do the smaller surface areas, but for the larger panels, what we find is have at least 2 or maybe even 3 reference points for the large panels so that you can connect the tape down at point A, stretch it out across, and make sure it's making contact with point B and point C before you put the edge of the tape down. And then as you get these lines across the car, don't fully tack them down and press them down to the car quite yet, because we are going to go back a third time and actually triple check our measurements. So let's begin. Make sure we line up with point B. Give it a little press. Make sure we line up with point C. Give it a little press just to make sure it's sticking where we want it to. And that will hold our line for us. We're going to continue this throughout the car, then come back in and double check the measurements from the edge of a certain reference point to the edge of the tape, and the same thing on the other side. And if we have to kind of, sneak it over to one side or the other, we still have that option. Okay, now we've triple checked our center line, and it's about as close as we need it for this demonstration. Now, again, we're going to have 8-inch stripes on both sides of this center line, and actually when we're done with the project, we're going to peel this tape up, and that's going to be a gap of white pearl in between the two blue stripes. So what we like to do as a template is cut like an envelope or piece of cardboard or something like that to the size of your stripes. So this envelope has been cut down to 8 inches. And all we're going to do is lay the envelope on one side of the gap stripe. We're going to start our tape line. We're going to run the tape out and then use the envelope on the other end as a guide point, and that will give us an 8-inch wide stripe. Now again, don't tack down the tape too hard because we want the opportunity to come back and double check everything, but as you can see, this gives us a really good starting point. All right, now once you've got all your lines measured out, now you're going to go back in and tack the tape down. And what you're going to do is just press smoothly with some firm pressure. You don't want to overkill it because you still want to be able to release it cleanly. We want to make sure that you press it down nice and firm and follow all of the tape edges and make sure that the tape edges are down smooth against the car. You don't want any of the tape edges lifting up because that's not going to allow you to get really clean lines. So we're going to do that all the way around. Then we're going to start masking away from the stripes. Now it's time to start masking away from our stripes. Now this area here is going to be a stripe, it's going to get sprayed. This area here is going to be a stripe and it's going to get sprayed. But everything on the outsides of those stripes, we want to protect our pearl white finish. So what I have here is tape and drape. You can get this at DipYourCar.com and some scissors. And all I'm going to do is just run the adhesive of the tape and drape along the center line of my masking tape all the way down, and I'm going to stop at the end of the panel. That way I can start fresh with more tape and drape and make sure I've sealed everything off. You just come back in with your scissors, cut off the excess, make sure it's adhered really well, and then you're just going to pull the plastic carefully away, and you're going to be able to mask off the other side of the car here where we don't want to get any Plasti Dip on. Now you're going to want to overlap that on some certain areas, but we're going to go around the entire car now, and we're going to mask away from all of our stripes and protect all of the satin white. So the lines are taped down, the car is masked off, we've done everything we need to do, and it's time to start spraying our stripes down. Now here is the process, and you want to make sure you follow this process very carefully. We're using Flex Blue for our stripes, so I'm guessing we're going to need about 3 coats of blue on top of the white to get full coverage. But no matter what color you use, no matter how many coats you need to do, it's very important that you're going to peel off the masking tape on every edge of the stripe while the last coat is still wet. So for us, for example, we're going to lay our first coat on all the stripes across the car, let it dry, come back, lay the second coat, let it dry, about 10 to 15 minutes in between coats. Then we're going to get ready and prepared. We're going to lay our third coat across the car, a nice wet coat, And we're gonna come back while it's still wet and very carefully peel off all the edges. That will make sure we get a nice clean edge with the Plasti Dip. If you let it dry, the Plasti Dip is gonna dry over the edge of the tape, and when you go to rip it, or when you go to lift the tape, it's gonna rip or tear the edge and you won't have that nice clean line. So let's show you how we're gonna do it. We'll take you through step by step. Now we finished the project and see it wasn't that difficult to do. The car looks great. We got some really sharp, beautiful lines on there. There's just a couple things that you want to pay attention to when doing this project to make sure that you have a successful result at the end of the day. First, make sure that the dip on the car has a minimum of 24 hours to dry before you put any masking tape or materials on top of it. Second, make sure you use the right masking tape. The blue masking tape that you see us use on this project that's available at DipYourCar.com is specifically a low-tack adhesive tape, and it won't damage the Plasti Dip when you peel it away as long as the dip had enough time to dry beforehand. There's other masking tapes out there that have a much more aggressive adhesive, and it wouldn't matter how long the Plasti Dip had time to dry, it would still damage the dip when you remove it. And the most important thing, make sure you're removing the masking tape lines while the last coat on your stripes is still nice and wet. That's going to make sure you get nice, crisp, smooth, straight lines without any jagged edges or anything. That's going to be the biggest piece of the puzzle, and make sure you use a buddy to help you remove all the masking materials if you need to. Now, a quick note, when you're using the product to create your stripes, if you're using PDS, you do it just like we did in this video. If you're using top coat, DYC top coat for your stripes, you need to make sure that there's some paper material in between the Plasti Dip surface and the tape and drape when the tape and drape goes over it, specifically because the DYC top coat will kind of melt that tape and drape a little bit when it comes in contact, and that can ruin the finish on your car. That's why I always suggest, if people are doing racing stripes or any type of stripes, just use PDS. It's a lot easier. Now, everything you saw us use today is available for you directly at DipYourCar.com. If you have any questions about this or anything dip related, email us, CustomerService@DipYourCar.com. Call in during business hours or chat with us directly on the website. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you on the next one.